Hi everybody. In this video we're going to build a simple server and we're writing just the back-end code. We're not worried about designing the web page or anything, but what the code will do is be the back-end for something like this where we want to compute the body mass index of someone. So I can put in a weight here, 190.6, their height 6 foot 1 inch, and we get a BMI back 25.1, plus we get the category that person's in, whether they're overweight, or if I were 100 pounds, I'd be underweight. If I was 200, I'm still overweight. 250, obese. So that's what we want to do, create the back end for something like this. So the input will be the height of someone in inches. Let's just keep life simple and not do the feet in inches, and the weight in pounds, and then they'll output the BMI, which will be some number, and also let's call it category, some text that'll be like obese, overweight, normal, those types of categories. So that's what we're trying to do. All right, let's get started. Okay, the first thing I want to do, clear I guess, is I'm going to build our create a directory. And now I'm going to initialize. And now I'm going to install a library we need, and I'll explain that one in a second. And what Express is, it's an application framework or web application framework. And what that means is a set of features. It's a library that has a set of features that we'll be using in order to develop web applications. We're using relatively few for this example, but think of it, it's just providing us with these features that will enable us to develop web apps. All right, so that's okay. And now let's open up, let's create a file here. This is, give me a sec. Okay, and now let me create a file. And let me call that BMI JavaScript JS. All right. All right, so the first thing we want to do is load in that library that we just created or downloaded. And this should look familiar to all of us. And let's go ahead and create an app, what's called a web application, or so an instance of that. Let's set a variable, the port number. What port is this going to be listening on? And now finally, it's going to, the request we're going to send the server is a GET request. I'll talk about more about this shortly, but it's going to be a GET request. And once our server gets the address app BMI, so this can be anything, but I'm saying once it gets this address app BMI, that means if we go to HTTP, if a user's typing in this, and well, it's going to be in localhost port 8080, and if they type app, that's not what I want to type, let's call it API. It doesn't matter, but I just like this better. If they type that, they'll execute the code listed here, and if they typed Voodoo, I'd have another apt-get to handle that request. So that's what this apt-get does. And the second argument here is a function, and that function is going to take two arguments. It's a request coming in, so what we're getting from the browser, and it's also going to have this response that's going to, what it's going to output. So what are we sending to the browser? So my variable REQ is what are we getting from the browser. RES is what we're sending out to the browser. This is one way of writing functions with this arrow notation. And what I'm going to do is just log that what their variables or parameters they're sending us. That's what that does. Now I'm going to start that up. I'm going to have that app listen to a port. And once it's listening, I'll just print out saying, hey, I'm started and I'm ready, just so something to the console that we know things are working. And I'll use a backtick. This backtick is the same as a single quote, except it does interpolation, meaning it'll replace a JavaScript variable with its value before printing it out, as you'll see in a second. Find the Okay, now here I'm going to do that a variable. That looks good, I think. And that looks good. So I think we have a tiny little application that it will at least do something. So let me see if that actually works. And so far I don't have any errors, so that's good. Now in order to test this, we're going to be using this program a lot in the course. We're going to download a program called Postman. So it says developing APIs is hard, Postman makes it easy. And I'll let you, on your own time, download the correct version and install it. It's fairly easy to get started on it. And I don't want to download, so I'll just stop this. Hopefully that'll stop it. All right, and let me start the actual thing I did download earlier. Okay, and there we are. We're up and running. So this enables me to send a GET request. Remember this GET here, this is one of those verbs I mentioned in an earlier video, and that matches here where I'm saying app GET. So it's a GET, this GET request here, HTTP localhost 8080 API BMI, and I'm sending in a few parameters, height and weight. So you can see that here, height equals 72, weight 190. Okay, my server's running, so let me send this to the server. And it's not going to totally work because I haven't finished building the application yet, but at least we'll get some debugging information, hopefully. Okay, and I made a little error here. Let me just see what I did wrong here. Oh, I know. I think it's my usual error here. Yes, I need a slash there, and I typically miss those. Sorry. Let's quit the server and start it again. Okay, we're printing that. Remember, find the server at HTTP localhost 8080. That was that backtick explanation. And let me try this again. And I see I made yet another error, sorry. I actually wanted to print the value and not a quoted string. One of these days I'll get this right. All right, third time's a charm. All right, cool. So we're still working here. We're not completely set, but I did print out what information I'm getting from this browser. So I'm getting a height and a weight. So now we can go ahead and finish. Let me just cancel this request. So now we can go ahead and finish this program. So we know that we have, let me just create a couple variables even though I don't really need them. I'm going to go height equals, so it's this request query, and I printed that out over here, and we saw that it was this JSON with a height and a weight. So I can go query height, and I'll do the same with weight. I could have used these directly, but what the heck. All right, and the formula for BMI, let me just write that, equals the weight in pounds, let me just say, times, or sorry, divided by the height squared times 703. So that's the formula we want to implement. And let me create another variable, BMI equals, well, I already have these variables, weight divided by height times height. There's no performance hit. I think actually multiplication is a little faster than squaring something. So that's the BMI, and let's just log just to make sure it looks good. And now we want to return something to the browser. So what that's going to look like is it's this response. We're going to return some JSON, and then in here it's the JSON we want to return. And let's just start with BMI is this BMI we calculated. So that all looks good. Let's give that a shot. Let me save this. Let me stop this. And that's running. So let me go back to Postman here and send that same thing. Height 72, weight 190. And it prints 25 here, and I get back from in Postman this JSON that says BMI 25.7658. So that's the BMI. And now I wanted to add that interpretation of what category they were. So let's go ahead and finish that. This is just simple coding that all of us can do. Let's do that here. And the interpretation is this, that underweight is less than 18.5. Normal is 18.5 to 24.9. Overweight is 25 to 29.9, and obese is greater than or equal to 30. So that's what we're trying to implement. All right, so let's give it a shot. We can do this in our sleep probably, but let's go. If underweight I guess it's less than 30. All right, so I think that looks probably good. And so now we want to add that to our JSON. We want to return it, and we're going to call it category. Again, I don't need to call this category. I can do interpretation. It doesn't need to match. This left-hand side does not need to, sorry for scrolling away here. This left-hand side does not need to match this right-hand side. It can be any, it just happens in my case. But so let's call it interpretation. So we're going to return this back to Postman. So that looks good, and let's take a look at it. Okay, and now let's go to Postman and send this same thing, 72,190. Let's go down a bit. Let's say, sorry, I keep screwing up here. Let's say the height is 73, weight is 188, and try that. Normal, and let's try that 100 weight, which we knew was underweight. So it looks like it works. So that's the simple way of making a web application or constructing an API. And let me just go over that again. So the first thing we did was we installed the library or bred in the library. We created this app, an instance of Express. We set the port. We kind of did it in 2 steps. I guess we didn't really need to do it this way, but we did it. And we said app-get API BMI. This is what we want to recognize. As I said, it could be anything. This is creating a function. So we're reading a request from the browser, and we're sending this response back. And we just logged this, and we saw that it was a JSON object that had a height and a weight value, which we read in here. We calculated the BMI, calculated a category, and then we used this rest.json. This rest here is related to this up here. And finally, we started the app listening on a particular port. So that's basically it. We'll look a little bit more about how to combine this now with a Postgres database, but at least you have a good way of getting started. So that's it.